Sup, everyone? We're back at the Great Ace Attorney. Time for us to be declared guilty.
Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes.
Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused.
And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best.
Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before...
I don't stand for nonsense.
Oh... No. We're dead. Well, case is over, everyone. I guess I'll end the recording here. Next time, episode 4, where we go back to Japan. That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh! There's a footnote, though. Footnote? However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial. By delivering my final verdict, I trust there are no objections. Miss Usato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law, however the defense. What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation? Examination?
Objection!
A summation examination. From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah! Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic long forgotten and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is a Miss Usato? The so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. I mean, sorry, my words are backwards. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Typical Nipponese. Man, this man is all types of wrong. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really. So it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age.
Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct.
Oh shit.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yo, Susato is getting this freaking prosecutor. Pointing him in the ground. Summation examination. Our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? Of course we assert our right. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe we could prove it could prove vital to this trial. Hey, rhymes. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Eh? Oh, well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, all members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believed the defendants to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot.
I have way too similar voices on these two. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark.
That seems to have thrown the jurors off.
It seems none of them have experienced this before.
Alright then. Summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for, to turn this trial around. Time to revive this summation examination from the ashes. So be it then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime.
Oh, shoot.
Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him.
I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusions.
You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years.
I'm sensing... The scoundrel stabbing the poor man on the floor. It beggars belief.
That was also really good music that was playing. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now.
Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they?
Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I have to throw everything I can at them. And use some very persuasive language.
Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works.
Oh? I thought I was gonna have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant.
Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says.
But then...
They've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it should recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become.
Then what on earth am I supposed to do?
Oh dear, I'm deciding what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo.
Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then?
Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments.
What do you mean?
Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in this courtroom together.
And that's the way to break them down, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
How does your book not fall out of your sleeve? You barely put it in your sleeve and then you point your arms downwards. How does that work?
We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other.
I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination.
Oh, yes, I suppose you're right.
Okay, so we have to find contradictions between multiple jurors. Like one of them says something, and then one of them says something that contradicts the previous one that was talking. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. Oh, damn, he did the double cheek slap on that. Yo, he clapped his cheeks. I'm sorry. I have to pull this off. Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal.
Yes, my lord.
Oh, damn. The defense's rebuttal. Okay. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him.
I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the champ next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen.
I don't think we're gonna get much from this lady. You can trust the guild. Fair phrase is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. Wait a second. With fares totaling 4 passengers with fares 20 pence? Wait a second. 4 times 20 divided by 4, that's 5. I already see it. Oh, cool. It shows you their stuff. You two.
Objection!
These two statements clearly contradict each other. They do. Explain yourself, counsel.
Me? Oh dear, what have I said?
I swear on Silver Blaze's maiden name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. I love him walking back and forth. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares.
Quite right. I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me.
Juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is, a fair and convenient single price. Just the way London's carriages should be operated.
But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts.
Why, man? Why?
4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication... Ah! It would be 16 pence! Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare.
1 person's fare?
Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible, there was another passenger we've heard nothing about.
Good gracious.
I thought it was that...
This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword.
Figures you coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he left nefarious characters ride his omnibus.
Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end,
Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales.
Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo.
Woohoo!
Oh, this is all very irritating.
Begging your pardon, sir, I'm going to do the same. And that is dos, ni.
For the love of Mike, not you as well.
Who the hell's Mike? A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters.
Oh, really?
I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Narhoda, you did it! If we can manage to change two more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. I've said it before and I'll say it again, she is extremely adorable. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that's been bothering me about a couple of their assertions. And that's where you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly! You can do it!
Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination.
Got it. I think I know which ones, potentially. I'm changing my leaning to innocent. I should like to hear what this slipshod bookkeeper has to say for himself. This man pretending to stab.
Beppo, this trial has to continue so I can get to the bottom of this corruption. Not guilty, I say.
That scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor, it beggars belief. Yeah, I think we figured out the other one. Stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say, absolutely brazen. These 2 statements are completely contradictory.
What? Explain, Constable, post haste.
Oh, dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What, can't you see I'm busy here?
How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Huh? Want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6.
Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man?
How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam?
Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so.
Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? What?
Bless my stitches, what a muddle.
What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth.
Oh.
But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I guess I'm going with this. If he's saying the word dickens, I've now adopted this type of... I've adopted this type of voice. I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen? In all good consciousness.
Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies.
And now it's even. Ba-boom.
The scales.
I don't believe it. Wait! Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Just because I have a sword doesn't mean I'm a spell sword. Jeez. Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Me? What exactly is the problem? If 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus. And this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. And this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, hmm?
Who are you calling a dandy?
Who are you calling a dandy, sir?
Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you.
They're ready to kill each other now. I mean, hey, that's less jurors to deal with. Could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? Photograph of the victim taken on the omnibus. The knife in his abdomen is clearly visible. No, it's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say that 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime. If you say that that's out of the question, show me some proof. Oh, I've got your proof. Looks like the only way I'm gonna convince him is to present him with something he can't miss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime is proven by... Ba-boop.
Take that!
Take that! This clear piece of evidence. Well, Mr. Foreman. Do you know what they say about me, young man? They say I've got no powers of persuasion. Oh, I see. I'm sorry to hear that. But no one will need persuading about this. You're even worse than me. What? I could have sworn that was it. Different moments. In other words, the victim was stabbed twice. Okay, I guess I got that wrong. Saving. Probably should have cycled saves there, but let's just hope the recording doesn't go to crap. If you'll allow me another chance, I'd like to present you with one more piece of evidence to consider. Okay. Stabbed... Oh, stabbed once. Yeah, okay, so, sorry, autopsy. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means his witness can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Alright, I can see defeat. Hey, thanks, man. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruto. We've won. Well, we haven't won the trial, but we won that. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Kinda gross, man. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate. And the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places. And I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. Alright. We are back. Well, back to regular stuff, I mean. So, Lord Van Zykes, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Uh-oh, he's pouring another glass. Bro, you're gonna be drunk in no time if you keep doing that. I just realized, does he have a Grim Reaper on his frickin' on the wine bottle? Like with dual scythes or something? Bro, did you just crush a chalice in your hand? How, I mean, I know you're wearing gloves, but how are you not bleeding, and how is there not wine stained on you? Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes! Is it cold in here, or is it just me? I mean, you have a lamp. You have a lamp not too far away from you. It's probably just you. As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored the deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle.
Damn.
Bring forth the witnesses once more.
My man threw off his coat. That's a sign of someone truly being done. I like how all three of them have top hats. Actually, I think all the male jurors also have top hats.
Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure.
Yes, sir. That I did, sir.
Of course I heard it.
Yes, sir. I heard it.
You, sir, on the end, the coachman. I believe it's Beppo.
Yes, sir. My lord, sir.
If it transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind.
Oh dear.
Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination.
Alright. Witness testimony. Various misgivings. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But
Well, I for one was told to pay 5 pence for the bus.
he fiddled us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. You know, I had a feeling. Honestly, I thought it was that they got freaking scammed instead of there being a 5th passenger as well.
I tell you, I saw Mr. McGilden stabbing this man. Everything I said before stands.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes. Well then.
Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. Beppo, explain yourself.
I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. Look at his eyes.
The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board, you know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare?
Yeah, it's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty.
You have been dishonest, coachman.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild.
If I may, sir. I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week.
What?
4 passengers at 5 pence each is... Yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures.
Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. I like how his eyes went freaking twitchy again.
I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear, but,
Hold it!
So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4-pence fare. Is that right?
It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold, it was all I could do to stop myself passing out.
I'm getting chilblains to just listen to. Chilblains? I don't know.
It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger?
You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night. Also, something I haven't mentioned before about Ryunosuke's animations, because it's something new, because we have the armband. Whenever he, like, gets distressed with that face that he had just a few seconds ago, whenever, like, his freaking armband goes down his arm a bit, and then he has to pull it back up. That's also kind of a neat detail, because it is a Sogi's armband and not our own. Then we would have had another suspect. Well, I for one was told to pay 5 pence for the bus.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4?
Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir.
And I just told you that I did.
A flat fare, 5 pence across the board.
It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead, and buried. I'd have been happy if I'd ever existed in the... I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place.
He fiddled us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight? You mean the murder, I presume?
Yes, sir.
I really like this guy. Loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his... I don't know where my voice went. I stopped using a voice for this dude and started talking regularly. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man in the moment his life is taken.
Oh, well. Not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed.
Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to this. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant.
I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath, see? That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw this horrible blade poking out from his belly all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming. Even when I'm eating.
Poor dude. I tell you, I saw Mr. McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who is sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet 0 evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. Wish I could work out what it was. I mean, we know about his stuff in the ledger.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you?
Oh, yes, that's right.
You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice-pick grip.
Yeah, I suppose. I might have, put the cart before the horse, maybe.
What's this?
Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats of the roof deck.
Oh, I suspect that was me, sir.
And when I turned around, yes, I saw through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking out from out of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was the famous man. Yes.
So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all.
I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head. No, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Hi there.
I want to go... In fact, now that I come to think about it, it must have already happened when I heard the scream.
Alright. The jig's up, buddy. You're bending your cane a bit too much.
Excuse me!
Excuse me. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Huh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. Might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the moment the crime was committed? No chance. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot on the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man? Somebody messed up because he had gloves.
Objection!
He didn't have... His hands weren't touching it. Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit the soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but... But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. Oh my god, look at him. Look at my man. Look at how smug he is. He has his freaking hand resting on the end of the sword. What a lad. I love him. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGill, did on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Urgh! Why are you biting the end of your cane, bro? In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Yeah! But, no, that can't be right.
So you're the liar here, then? That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? I will lie.
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court.
Gog! Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate.
He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, I could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. Oh, I have evidence. My lord.
Yes, counsel.
The defense is ready to present evidence.
By Jove, are you sure?
Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony.
Gorg! Gorg! Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates the motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Babu,
Take that!
this is the list of debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded.
Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion.
The point is, among the names of these debtors, it is your name. Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt.
According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say?
Ugh. Well, what of it?
Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, with the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist.
Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant. You have been destroyed.
Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have more serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim?
Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony.
Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch.
A pinch?
but it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying... I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Sure, you can speak. In the next episode of Great Ace Attorney. Adios, ciao, and bye-bye. Signing off until next time. Ja, mata ne.